Glad you could join us for another edition of Media Champions here on Daily Ad Brief. I'm Mary Therese. Today we're going up to New York City. Very excited to have on the program Dan Pantelo. Dan is the CEO of Marpipe. Dan, welcome to the program. Ready to dive right into all your subject matter expertise. You all track conversation data for your clients. Brief it up. How do you do that, and how did that even happen?
So essentially what we do is we're actually a design platform that automates the process of creative testing, right? And so what that means in a nutshell is creative is the most important part of ad performance for brands, right? So it's the one element that has the highest impact on whether your ads perform well. It's the actual quality of your creative, right? And when we think about the process of how do brands make creative today, right? Most people think that there's this convoluted workflow and there's a lot of data and research that goes into it, but most people are really surprised to find out that the way we decide what our ad creative looks like today, even at the highest level of brands and even at the most innovative marketing agencies, is actually as simple as you think it is. It's a bunch of people in a room that make stuff that they think look cool, essentially. And if the client agrees that it looks cool, then we run it. In a nutshell, that's pretty much the process. There might be a little bit of extra things here and there throughout the process that some people might throw in. But it's really a guessing game, and it's rooted in arbitrary taste making, right? And when we think about every other process that is involved in digital marketing today, from audience targeting to bidding to placement, all of these things benefit from data and automation. And then the one thing that is totally untouched by data and automation is the actual creative workflow, which is the one thing that's most important to your advertising success, right? So the question becomes, how can we incorporate data and automation into the creative process, into what we decide our creative looks like, right? And Marpipe's answer to that is through the process of creative testing. Now, creative testing for brands, we look at as like exercise, right? It's hard to do. It's a big lift. If you do it right, it should be exhausting and resource intensive. But we all know that the people who do it the most are the most successful and the healthiest and the strongest. And for brands, creative testing is really like I would make that analogy to creative testing, right? The more we test our creative, the more likely we are to discover positive outliers and strong performers. And so Marpipe essentially is a design platform that allows people to, with the work of making one ad, actually make hundreds of different versions of it automatically, and then run them in where the brands actually serve media. So like on Facebook and Instagram, and get live feedback from what audiences think about and how they react to those hundreds of different versions of their ad creative, so that you can really quickly find out what your best case scenario creative is by automating the process of testing hundreds of them. And so that's in a nutshell what Marpipe is.
I know potential customers, they just must have their mind blown when they figure out all the different angles that you can take, which brings me to my next question about partnering with someone like your company, because you bring so much more to the table. And I read too that you talk about the new consumer privacy regulations are kind of forcing changes in the way that people gather this information, and you can actually walk people through that with confidence so that they can reach that road to success.
Yeah, exactly. So today you have a regulatory environment that's really hostile to the strategies which advertisers have built on for the past 10 years. So for the past 10 years, brands have been building their entire path to performance, leaning on the crutch of what is essentially invasive audience targeting, right? And then now you've had the European Union and several other governments, and then Apple come out with these regulations like ATT, GDPR, iOS 14. We've all heard of these things, and they're turning ad accounts upside down in real time. If you talk to any marketer who's in the weeds today, they'll tell you there's a lot of confusing things going on in their ad account right now as we speak, and they don't know what to do about it. There's a lot of chatter happening in our communities about it. And really, it comes down to this. In a world where the audience targeting capabilities that you've built on top of for the past 10 years are pulled out from under you, you need to find out alternative paths to performance, right? What are other things you can do other than relying on this kind of really deep audience targeting, which is no longer available to you? And an alternative path to performance, another way to get there is through better creative, right? And actually, good audience in a world where you have really good audience targeting, the quality of your creative matters much less. And in a world where you have worse audience targeting, the quality of your creative matters much more. Here's why. So MT, if I know the past 5 purchases that you made on your Amex, I'm actually able to predict with reasonable certainty what product you're about to purchase next, right? These are things that have been figured out by algorithms already. And so all I really need to do to get you to purchase that item that I know you're already probably looking for is just show you a picture of it. I don't need to make anything fancy for you, right? But in a world where I don't know that information about you specifically, but instead I just know that I'm targeting your demographic group, then I need to make something that's much more broadly appealing to folks who look and behave like you online. And that's why the quality of the creative matters much more. And Marpipe allows you to just decode that completely, right? By being able to out-test your competition and learn more from your creative experiments than you otherwise ever were able to, you're able to essentially lean on creative data as a path to performance rather than audience data, which is why we're seeing a massive influx of inbound for Marpipe. We have more demand right now than we can handle because we kind of find ourselves at the right place at the right time with the right solution to address this new problem that folks have.
I think you are a wealth of knowledge, Dan, and kudos to you and your team. You guys are killing it with what you're doing at Marpipe, and we hope you'll come back on the program. Just lending your subject matter expertise to folks to give them that notion that road to success is definitely attainable. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, MT. Appreciate it.
Anytime. And if you want to know more about what's happening at Marpipe with Dan and the crew there, let us make the connect for you. It's easy to do. Go to dailyadbrief.com. I'm Mary Trace in Atlanta. Hope to see you again for another edition of Media Champions on Daily Ad Brief.